unveiling the landscape and debates beyond the laboratory.
It's a great pleasure to be with you today and to specifically talk about organic farming, a sustainable solution. Organic farming is a way of life, and it marries both livestock and crop production. If you have to do it successfully, and it is highly sustainable. Over the years, we've been able to grow poultry without vaccination, synthetic drugs, and even without using heat for them. And we only use local herbs and spices. Herbs and spices, they are so potent, so powerful. If you understand how to combine them, you will excel in poultry production and even in ruminants, goats, and husbandry and all those things. We use ginger, garlic, turmeric, cayenne pepper, neem tree, neem leaves, and these things. Once we combine them in certain proportion, we can get excellent results, very excellent results from growing those beds without having serious diseases. And the reason for the result is not far-fetched. When you take a particular herbs, for instance, the neem leaf or the dongoyaro, it has over 200 active ingredients. One of such is the Azadirachta indica, and it is a potent pesticide and also very high in antioxidants. Excellent for both plants and animals. To use them, we combine them with an intensifier. What is intensifier? Is a common herbs that you have around, the cayenne pepper. This is just the foundation of growing beds without synthetic drugs and using chemicals. The cayenne pepper, Atashombo, Obawa pepper, is an intensifier for any herbs when you combine it. Once you combine cayenne pepper with neem, it intensifies the potency of neem. If you combine with garlic, it intensifies the potency of garlic, ginger, and all the rest. So with this, you can sustainably grow your own birds without depending on even now very costly synthetic drugs. And the drawback from growing livestock with synthetic drugs comes from the fact that there's withdrawal period when they use chemicals. But believe me, you've been consistently dosing yourself with antibiotics when you consume chicken that are not grown synthetically. Chances are that you are dosing yourself with antibiotics, because I have so many farmers that grow their own beds with dose of antibiotics, and there are no withdrawal period for them when they sell that to the consumers. What that means is that you still have the residue of the active ingredient of the antibiotics in the chicken, and then you stir fry them, you do so many things to them, and then you consume those antibiotics without treating any disease. And you know antibiotics, bacteria build resistance. So when the need arises for you to start using antibiotics, you discover that the normal antibiotics will not be enough to handle the disease. So you need to go a bit higher. And then you start damaging some other organs that are not supposed to expose to a higher dose of antibiotics, and then you struggle seriously. So these are the drawbacks. For the conventional farmers, let me tell you, I'm just saying this for cucumbers alone, but there are all other crops. When a farmer grows cucumbers are very nutritious, and the pests also love them. But believe me, for that cucumber to get to you, that farmer will have used at least 5 different chemicals on these cucumbers. They are going to use fungicides, they are going to use herbicides, they are going to use pesticides in different doses, and they increase them every now and then if they are not getting result for them. And the pests that they use these antibiotics on normally do build up resistance against these chemicals. And once it happens, what the farmer normally does is to increase the dosage first. Then he starts searching for even more powerful chemicals that he can apply. And plants are screeners of nutrients and chemicals. They store them for you. When you buy carrots will screen the soil for heavy metals. For everything that is in the soil, it will take it up and store it for you as well. So when you use chemicals on them, their stomatas and the leaves and everything will absorb all these things. And they store them in form of their food. If they are fruiting, if they are tubers, they store them for you. So you are dosing yourself, or the farmers is dosing you with residues of many of these chemicals they use in growing them. And so when you start consuming this food consistently, you begin to compromise your health in a very dangerous way. And that is why we are having diseases and so many issues. In the past, we don't have business with cancer. But these days, it is very rampant. And it's not far-fetched from the food that we consume. So what are the approaches that the farmers can do? We depend on growing food crops organically using microorganisms. So we use different kinds of microorganisms. The lactic acid bacteria, we use the Rhodosudomonas, we use the IMO, indigenous microorganisms, and you can actually produce them yourself on the farm. You don't need expensive equipment to do this. Just rice wash, you are producing your rice wash and some molds around your farm. And those molds are from the trees that are falling down, the leaves of those trees that are falling down on the farm. You harvest them, you have those white molds under them, and you culture them with your rice mold, you have your lactic acid bacteria. Your lactic acid bacteria transports nutrients to your plants. So when you use them, you can multiply even 10-folds the productivity of your plants. You are going to have more harvest from those plants if you know how to apply it and how to use it. You know, so you will use also materials from immediate environment. Like I mentioned, the dongoyaro leaves. The dongoyaro leaves has diazadirachta indica, which is a natural pesticide. It's an antifeedant for pests. Once you spray it on top of the plant, the pests cannot feed on it. Even if they do, they will not be able to feed anymore and they die off. And then we make it even more potent by using hot pepper as pesticides. We use very hot pepper as pesticides, and even oil. Oil can serve as pesticides. Soap can serve as pesticides. It depends on how you want to combine and how you want to use them. And the beauty of it, like I said, is that the pests find it difficult to build resistance against these herbs because there are over 200 active ingredients. Unlike, for instance, when you have the malaria drugs that has 2 active ingredients. The malaria can, the parasite can build resistance against it because it has only 2 active ingredients to work on. But when you have turmeric, dongoyaro leaves, and you have like over 400 active ingredients. The pests or the bacteria will find it very difficult to build resistance against this. Then, nutrients. Instead of using chemicals like the salts of fertilizers, because most fertilizers are salts of various compounds. And so, if you desire nitrogen, you are going to get salts of some other compounds as well. And so, when you use those NPK on the soil, you also deposit those salts on the soil itself. And it kills the microorganisms in the soil. And there are billions of them. If you are able to do this for 3 seasons, you will have destroyed all the microorganisms, and you will not be able to plant on that same soil again with that same chemical, and you relocate to another farm. That is not sustainable. But for the organic farmer, we use chicken poo, the lactic acid bacteria I just mentioned, and microorganisms will build the soil. And you can remain on that same spot for many years to come. There were arguments that conventional is more cheaper to do. But let me tell you, when you introduce those chemicals and you destroy the soil microorganisms, and you can no longer grow on it again, you move to another farm to open up that area. You fall trees, you do so many things. But as organic farmer, we are still on the same farm, growing the same food, and we have those biodiversity, growing different crops, creating an ecosystem that works for the farmer. You know, the livestock, the microorganisms, the plants you grow, is that they are all ecosystem that needs to be cultured together. But when you monocrop, you grow only one crop alone, you open up the whole ecosystem for just one particular crop to dominate. And then you have the risk of crop failure. Because, for instance, tomatoes, total absoluta, once it comes in, it wipes out the whole farm. But when you grow tomatoes, you grow basil, you grow pepper, you grow okra, you grow varieties of crops on your farm, chances are that some of the pests, like we used to do companion crop, we can grow tomatoes, reduce the pest load on tomatoes by growing basil along with it. Because the pest of basil, we attack the pest of tomatoes for us. So automatically we have grown the enemies of our pests along with the tomatoes that we grow. So this system is just about being knowledgeable about what you are doing. So you will reduce the pest load on your farm by growing tomatoes and basil side by side as a companion crop. And also we have attractants to reduce the pest load on the farm itself. It's a fruit attractant. We produce them. We use several fruits, pineapple, pawpaw, mango, and all those things. After growing them, if you have a particular plant that you are growing, for instance, maybe pepper, and you have a particular pest, aphids and all the rest feeding on them, and you want to reduce the pest load of aphids on that particular farm before you even go into the field, what you do is to produce these fruits, pineapple, banana, you grind them all together, and then you produce the particular plant that you want to control, the fruit. You add it to it, and you put the solution on the ground. All the pests of that pepper will be attracted to that place, and then the adult pests will be reduced significantly, and then you can have a leeway to plant and grow on the farm. So these are the styles that we use to reduce pest load on the farm, and then create even a more sustainable approach for organic farming. Thank you so much.
GMO food. episodes. Unveiling the landscape and debates beyond the laboratory.